A silent stone holds a message no one alive can read. Across the globe, ancient symbols carved in rock have resisted every attempt to understand them. These are not mere decorations. They are fragments of lost languages, entire ways of thinking sealed away by time. By the end of this journey, you will uncover the reasons these ancient codes remain locked and what their eventual decipherment could reveal about forgotten chapters of human history. We will explore a remote island's wooden tablets that may detail a society's collapse and an American slab bearing the earliest writing in the New World. Why does the human drive to leave a permanent mark so often lead to an unbreakable silence? There is a powerful human instinct that draws us directly to an unsolved puzzle. We are not content with silence from the past. We see a series of deliberate marks carved into a rock face, and a fundamental question ignites within us. What were they trying to say? This is not a casual curiosity. It is the same driving force that compels a detective to revisit a cold case, meticulously searching for the one overlooked clue that could break it wide open. Every undeciphered script is exactly that, a cold case from antiquity. These symbols represent profound gaps in our story, entire chapters of human experience that are currently blank pages. As the linguist John Doe has often remarked, each of these scripts is a locked door. Behind it could lie anything: the lost history of a forgotten kingdom, a revolutionary spiritual text, or simply the mundane records of a farmer from 3,000 years ago. We simply do not know, and that not knowing is a powerful magnet for the human mind. Remember the Rosetta Stone. For centuries, Egyptian hieroglyphs were just beautiful, meaningless pictures. Then the stone provided the key, and suddenly an entire civilization, with all its pharaohs, its gods, and its daily life, roared back into existence from the silence. That same potential for a world-altering revelation hums within every undeciphered inscription we will explore. It is the tantalizing promise of a truth hidden for millennia, waiting for the right person with the right insight to set it free. Far out in the vast Pacific Ocean, the giant stone heads of Easter Island stand as silent guardians of a deeper secret. Scattered among the island's relics are curious wooden artifacts, tablets and staffs covered in finely carved symbols known as Rongorongo. These are not the random scratches of idle hands. They are a complex system of glyphs featuring intricate forms of birdmen, fish, and geometric shapes, all arranged in a deliberate, alternating pattern. Think of an ancient book where every line is written left to right, but to read it, you must physically flip the tablet upside down for the next line. This unique Boustrophedon style is just one clue that you are looking at a true, fully developed script. Astonishingly, Rongorongo appears to be one of the handful of times in all of human history that a system of writing was invented completely independently, cut off from any outside influence. It is a linguistic universe born in total isolation. The tragedy is that the key to this universe was lost almost as soon as it was found by the outside world. These tablets were discovered in the 19th century, but the last people who might have been able to read them were gone, victims of disease and slave raids that devastated the island's population by the 1860s. So what do these beautiful carvings say? Some researchers believe they are sacred chants, recording the genealogies of chiefs or the epic stories of creation. Others see them as complex astronomical calendars, tracking the movements of stars and planets that were so vital to a seafaring people. A more haunting theory suggests they might even chronicle the island's own ecological collapse, a warning carved in wood about the consequences of consuming your own world. Without a Rosetta Stone for Rongorongo, a single text that presents the same message in both a known language and the unknown script. Every theory remains an educated guess. Modern technology has entered the fray, with computers analyzing the statistical patterns of the glyphs, searching for an underlying grammar or proposing possible phonetic sounds. Yet, a true decipherment still dances just out of reach. The silent wooden tablets of Easter Island are a stark monument to the fragility of knowledge itself, an entire library of human thought waiting in the dark for its reader to return. While the Rongorongo script was born in oceanic isolation, another great mystery emerged from the heart of a bustling, ancient civilization. The cities of the Indus Valley, which flourished over 4,000 years ago, were marvels of the ancient world. They featured sophisticated plumbing, carefully planned streets, and vast granaries. Yet their most enduring legacy might be the thousands of small, carved stone seals they left behind. Each seal is a miniature work of art, often featuring a beautifully depicted animal like a bull, an elephant, or a mythical unicorn-like creature. But it is the line of cryptic symbols above these animals that has become one of history's most stubborn puzzles. This is the Indus Valley script. For over a century, and despite countless attempts, no one has been able to read a single word. The inscriptions are frustratingly short, usually just 4 or 5 characters in length. They were likely used to mark goods and property, a kind of ancient trademark stamped into clay. But are these symbols a true writing system, capable of recording complex language, or are they something else entirely? This is the core of the debate that divides experts. Some linguists argue the patterns are too structured to be random, pointing to a defined set of signs and a clear direction of writing. They believe these seals contain names, titles, or perhaps even short prayers. Others propose a more radical idea that what we are seeing is not writing in the way we understand it, but a form of proto-writing. In this view, the symbols might represent clan identities, religious concepts, or trade information without encoding a specific spoken language, much like modern traffic signs or corporate logos convey meaning without forming sentences. The lack of a Rosetta Stone for the Indus civilization is a profound obstacle. We have no long texts, no royal proclamations carved on palace walls, no bilingual inscriptions that could offer a way in. Imagine trying to decipher the English language if the only surviving examples were the words Nike and Apple stamped on products. You would understand they signify a brand, but you would have no access to the rich literature and history of the culture that created them. This is the fundamental challenge with the Indus script. Modern technology has stepped in, with powerful computers analyzing the frequency and order of the symbols. Some statistical models suggest the script's patterns are consistent with an ancient form of the Dravidian languages, still spoken in southern India today. This is a compelling clue, but it remains a hypothesis, a ghost of a possibility without solid proof. So what stories are locked within these tiny seals? Do they record the names of powerful merchants who ruled the trade routes? Do they tell us the true name of the unicorn-like creature that appears again and again? Or do they hold the secret to why this incredibly advanced civilization, after thriving for nearly 1,000 years, eventually faded into obscurity? The Indus script is a quiet voice from one of humanity's first experiments with urban life, a reminder that a civilization can build grand cities and yet leave its most basic messages just beyond our understanding. From the sun-baked seals of the Indus Valley, we journey to a book that defies every convention. The Voynich Manuscript is a world of mystery bound in vellum, a relic from 15th century Europe that feels utterly alien. Its pages are filled from edge to edge with a flowing, unknown script, a cipher that has resisted codebreakers, scholars, and even military intelligence for centuries. But the writing is only half the puzzle. The manuscript is lavishly illustrated with breathtaking yet deeply unsettling images. You see plants that do not exist in any known botanical guide, their leaves and roots twisted into impossible forms. You find intricate charts of the cosmos, with zodiac symbols floating in celestial spheres that correspond to no recognized astronomy. And most strangely, there are pages filled with illustrations of nude women, bathing in or perhaps even forming a part of intricate, interconnected pools of a vibrant green fluid. Is this a forgotten treatise on medicine, a guide to a lost spiritual practice? Or is it, as some have argued, simply an elaborate and expensive forgery, a meaningless creation designed to fool a wealthy patron? The theories are as bizarre as the book itself. Some believe it is a coded alchemical text, its strange plants representing symbolic ingredients for the philosopher's stone. Others suggest it is a manual for a forgotten form of gynecology or botany, its knowledge so specialized it was lost to time. The hoax theory is compelling, given the immense effort such a deception would require, yet the script itself displays statistical patterns consistent with a real, structured language, not random gibberish. Even modern artificial intelligence has been thrown at this problem. Recent computational analyses have tentatively proposed that the underlying structure of the script might point to a Semitic language like Hebrew, with the words possibly being encoded through a complex cipher. But a proposed translation is not a true decipherment, and without a key, the manuscript's secrets remain locked tight. So why does this book, so intricate and carefully made, tell a story no one can read? Who was the intended audience for such a baffling object? The Voynich Manuscript stands as a powerful reminder that the drive to encode and conceal knowledge is as old as writing itself. It proves that not all ancient codes are etched in rock, but their silence can be just as profound. The silent halls of the palace at Knossos hold echoes of a civilization both sophisticated and strange. Here, amid the labyrinthine corridors that would one day inspire the myth of the Minotaur, another kind of maze was left behind. Scattered in the ruins are clay tablets, hardened by fire and time, inscribed with the delicate, linear markings of a script called Linear A. Used by the Minoan civilization between roughly 1800 and 1450 BCE, these tablets are our most direct window into Europe's first advanced culture, a society of vibrant art, sprawling palaces, and enigmatic rituals. We can walk through their grand courtyards and peer into their storage rooms, but without the key to their writing, their thoughts remain just out of reach. The profound frustration with Linear lies in its proximity to a solution. A later script, Linear B, found at Knossos and on the Greek mainland, was famously deciphered in the 1950s. It turned out to be an early form of Greek used by the Mycenaeans for dry administrative records. Linear looks strikingly similar, using many of the same symbols. The natural assumption was that they represented the same language. Yet, when scholars applied the phonetic sounds of Linear B to the older Linear A script, the results were pure nonsense. The words refused to form any known language. This failure was in itself a monumental discovery. It proved that the Minoans spoke and wrote a language completely distinct from Greek, a language that has left no other clear descendants. So what do these tablets actually say? Given their context in palace archives, they are almost certainly bureaucratic documents, lists of goods, allocations of resources, and records of trades. But within that dry framework, what secrets are hiding? Do they detail the offerings made to a powerful mother goddess, whose iconography fills Minoan art? Could they name the exotic goods traded across the Mediterranean, from Egyptian gold to Anatolian silver? Some linguists propose the language belongs to a pre-Greek substrate, a linguistic layer that existed before Greek speakers arrived in the region. This would make it a lone survivor, a ghost language preserved only in these baked clay accounts. Each tablet is a balance sheet from a lost world, detailing commodities like figs, olive oil, and bronze, yet the names of the people, the places, and the gods involved are silent. The Minoans built a breathtaking civilization, only to have its voice erased by time and conquest. Their script highlights a crucial truth about decipherment, that even when you have a visual key, a Rosetta stone of form, the lock may be a different language entirely. From the sun-drenched ruins of the Mediterranean, our search for lost voices carries us across the ocean to the dense jungles of the Americas, where a different stone bears a message from a world we are only beginning to understand. Deep in a Mexican gravel quarry, workers made a discovery that would rewrite the history of the Americas. Known as the Cascajal Block, this heavy slab of serpentine stone is carved with 62 distinct symbols, a mix of abstract shapes and stylized figures that may represent the earliest writing ever found in the New World. Dating to approximately 900 BCE, it is directly linked to the Olmec civilization, the so-called mother culture of Mesoamerica. This places its creation centuries before the more famous writing systems of the Maya or the Zapotec. The glyphs themselves are a tantalizing puzzle. Some appear to be logograms, symbols that represent an entire word or concept, like a maize plant or a throne. Others might be syllables, the building blocks of spoken language, but with no other long texts from the Olmec to compare it to. The block is a solitary voice in the dark. How do you even begin to read a message when you have only one page? The inscription's brevity is a major part of the challenge. The text is short, arranged in scattered, horizontal rows. It lacks the long, flowing columns of later Mesoamerican scripts, making it difficult for linguists to identify patterns of grammar or recurring phrases. Was this a sacred incantation meant to be recited during a ceremony, or was it a record of a ruler's lineage and deeds, a political statement carved in stone to legitimize power? The block's physical context offers a vital clue. It was found among broken ceramic shards and other ritual debris, suggesting it was used in a ceremonial setting, perhaps as an object of veneration itself before being intentionally buried. This single artifact forces us to reconsider the dawn of writing. The Cascajal Block stands as powerful evidence that writing was not a single invention that spread across the globe, but a brilliant idea that the human mind discovered independently in multiple cradles of civilization. The Olmecs of Mexico, the Sumerians of Mesopotamia, and the Shang dynasty in China all developed their own unique systems to make language visible, to make it permanent. Yet the very environments that preserve these ancient puzzles also guard their secrets. The stone that protects the message from decay is the same stone that locks it away from time. The very stone that gives these ancient messages their immortality is also their greatest vulnerability. A symbol carved into a granite cliff face possesses a permanence that paper or parchment can never hope to match, but it is not invincible. It exists in a constant, silent war with its environment. In the dry, desert air of Egypt, the climate has acted as a perfect natural conservator. The arid atmosphere has kept the edges of hieroglyphs crisp and clear for thousands of years, allowing us to appreciate the precise artistry of each chisel mark. But transport that same stone to a moist, temperate region, and the story changes completely. Rain, wind, and the relentless cycle of freezing and thawing work like sandpaper on a grand scale, slowly grinding away at the surface, blurring lines and obscuring vital details until a once sharp inscription becomes an unreadable ghost. Human activity adds another layer of threat. The pollution of the industrial age brought with it acid rain, which chemically reacts with stone, eating away at the carved surfaces. Even the simple act of touching a carving, of laying a hand on its surface, transfers oils and accelerates erosion. We see this tragic interplay of environment and neglect in the story of the Rongorongo tablets. After they were discovered, many were stored in attics or damp basements, exposed to fluctuating humidity and insects. These fragile wooden objects, which had survived for centuries in the island's unique climate, began to warp and crack in their new, poorly controlled environments, further complicating any chance of reading their faded glyphs. This is precisely why modern conservation has become a race against time. Scientists and historians are no longer relying solely on the naked eye or simple photographs. They now employ advanced digital imaging techniques. They use 3D scanning to create perfect, millimeter-accurate virtual models of an entire inscription. They can then manipulate the light source on this digital copy, casting virtual shadows across the grooves to highlight depths and angles that are completely invisible in normal light. They can even use multispectral imaging to detect traces of pigments or faint preparatory sketches that have long since vanished from the stone's surface. Why is this so crucial? Because every scratch, every microscopic variation in the carving is a piece of the puzzle. Preserving these details, even just in digital form, ensures that future generations of scholars will have the raw material they need. It gives them a chance to apply new technologies, new linguistic theories that we cannot even conceive of today. The ultimate key to decipherment might not exist yet, but by preserving the physical evidence, we keep that door unlocked. And to fully understand the message, we must also understand the hand that carved it. The sheer effort required to carve these messages into stone speaks volumes about their importance. These were not casual scratches made in a spare moment, but monumental undertakings demanding specialized skills and tools. In ancient Egypt, a scribe working on a soft limestone surface would have used copper chisels, striking them with a stone hammer. Each blow was precise, carefully controlled to create the clean lines of a hieroglyph without shattering the brittle metal tool. But when the task was to carve into the immensely hard granite used for royal monuments, the approach had to change completely. They employed a technique known as hammer dressing, using even harder stones like dolerite to pound the surface directly, gradually pulverizing the granite into the desired shape through what must have been backbreaking, days-long labor. For the finest details, they might have used a simple bow drill with an abrasive sand, often emery or quartz, as the cutting agent. The sand's hard particles did the actual grinding, slowly and painstakingly incising the stone. This reveals a sophisticated understanding of material science, an early form of engineering applied to the art of permanent communication. Across the ocean, the Maya sculptors achieved a different kind of perfection. Their glyphs, often carved into limestone stelae, display an astonishing level of intricate detail. The sharp, angular lines and complex curves suggest the use of specialized toolkits. They likely employed fine chert or obsidian blades, rocks that can be knapped to a razor-sharp edge, allowing artisans to achieve the precision needed for their complex logosyllabic script. This was not a job for a common laborer, but for a highly trained, revered scribe, a master of both language and craft. Experimental archaeology gives us a visceral sense of this scale. Modern artisans attempting to replicate these carvings using only period-accurate tools report that even a short, simple inscription can take dozens of hours. A single, ornate Maya royal cartouche, the frame surrounding a ruler's name, could represent a week of concentrated, skilled work. A large stela covered in text might have been the focus of a craftsman's effort for an entire season. This immense investment of time and resources forces us to ask a fundamental question. What message was so vital, so sacred, or so powerful that a society was willing to dedicate such a significant portion of its human capital to its creation? The answer lies not just in the tools they used, but in the profound cultural weight these symbols were meant to carry for eternity. These carvings were far more than simple records or labels. They pulsed with the spiritual lifeblood of the cultures that created them. When we look at an Indus Valley seal, we are not just seeing a picture of a bull. We are likely witnessing a depiction of a deity, a sacred animal that served as a bridge between the human world and the divine. That single image, combined with its cryptic script, might have been a powerful amulet, a prayer made solid, used to bless a trade good or protect a household. On Easter Island, the Rongorongo glyphs, with their recurring birdmen and celestial forms, almost certainly relate to ancestor worship and creation myths. They were not merely storing information, they were performing it, likely chanted during rituals to connect the living with the spirits of the past and the forces of nature. This transforms the tablets from historical documents into sacred objects, active participants in the spiritual life of the community. In Mesoamerica, this connection was explicit. Glyphs were not just about commemorating a ruler, they were about anchoring that ruler's power in the cosmos. A king's name carved in stone was often fused with symbols of gods and natural elements, proclaiming that his authority was a divine mandate, a necessary part of the universal order. So why does this spiritual dimension matter for decipherment? It means we are not just looking for a dictionary definition, we are trying to reconstruct an entire worldview. The choice of a specific symbol, like the Olmecs using the maize god or the Minoans favoring the double axe, was not arbitrary. These symbols were dense with meaning, evoking emotions of awe, fear, devotion, and belonging. They were a visual language for concepts that might have been too profound or too dangerous to speak aloud. An anthropologist does not just ask what a symbol means, but what it does. What power did the community believe it held? Did carving a specific glyph invoke the rain, or ensure a successful harvest, or ward off evil? This shifts the entire challenge. A modern mind trained in practicality might look for a king's tax records, but the ancient hand may have been carving a hymn. To truly break the code, we must learn to listen for the echo of the chant that once accompanied the chisel strike. And sometimes the key to that echo lies not in the grand monuments, but in the smallest, most personal marks left behind. The silence surrounding these ancient scripts was often violently imposed. The beautiful, flowing lines of Rongorongo did not fade away naturally. They were silenced by the arrival of foreign ships. The population of Easter Island was devastated by diseases for which they had no immunity, and by brutal slave raids that carried away the island's most knowledgeable people. In a single, terrible generation, the living chain of masters who could teach and read the script was broken forever. The few wooden tablets that survived were often collected as curiosities by European visitors, ripped from their cultural context and stored away as oddities, their sacred texts reduced to mere decoration. This pattern of cultural erasure repeated itself across the globe. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Americas, they systematically targeted the written records of the civilizations they sought to conquer. They saw the Maya codices, books made of bark paper, as works of the devil. In town squares, they built great bonfires, feeding centuries of accumulated knowledge, history, and astronomy into the flames. Only a handful of these precious books survived the zealotry. This was more than just destruction. It was a deliberate act of cultural imperialism, an attempt to sever a people from their own past and impose a new identity. Today, the effort to revive these lost scripts is a race against a deeper kind of time. Linguists and community activists often work with the scant, and sometimes deeply biased, records left by the very colonizers who caused the disruption. They scour the diaries of missionaries and the notes of early explorers, searching for any passing mention of a glyph's meaning or a scribe's explanation. It is a deeply ironic and painful process, trying to reconstruct a culture's voice from the journals of those who worked to silence it. This history is not just a footnote. It is a fundamental part of the mystery. Ethical scholarship now demands we acknowledge this violent context. It asks us to remember that these are not just academic puzzles, but the shattered remains of living traditions. The question hangs heavy in the air. What profound understanding of the natural world, what epic histories or spiritual philosophies were lost in those fires and those raids? We are left with fragments and the haunting responsibility to listen as closely as we can. And so, the search for answers has moved from the jungle and the quarry into the clean, bright light of the laboratory. A quiet revolution is unfolding in the world of ancient scripts, moving from dusty archives to the digital frontier. Researchers are now deploying a sophisticated arsenal of non-invasive technologies to peer into these stone-bound secrets without ever touching a chisel to their surface. Multispectral imaging, for example, can illuminate texts in ways the human eye cannot see. By capturing light from beyond the visible spectrum, this technique can resurrect faded ink on a papyrus or reveal the ghost of a preliminary sketch etched into stone millennia ago, a guideline the carver never intended to be part of the final message. These are not merely better photographs, they are ways of seeing time itself. In parallel, artificial intelligence and powerful statistical models are acting as tireless digital cryptographers. An algorithm has no preconceived notions, no biases from years of traditional training. It can process thousands of inscriptions in seconds, searching for subtle, recurring patterns in the order and frequency of symbols. It might detect that a specific glyph almost always appears at the beginning of a phrase, hinting at a grammatical rule, or that certain signs cluster together, suggesting they form a common word or a royal title. For the Indus Valley script, this computational approach has been vital. Computers have rigorously tested the hypothesis that the underlying language could be a form of Proto-Dravidian, analyzing the script structure against known languages to see if the patterns align. The results are not yet a translation, but they provide a powerful, data-driven clue about where to focus further research. This new era is fundamentally collaborative, a meeting of minds where a linguist's deep knowledge of language families joins a data scientist's skill in pattern recognition and an archaeologist's understanding of the object's physical context. It is a slow, meticulous process, more like assembling a universe from scattered stardust than simply breaking a code. Yet for all its power, this technological toolkit faces profound limitations. A single bilingual text can shatter centuries of silence, yet for most undeciphered scripts, no such key exists. This is the fundamental dilemma facing every would-be codebreaker. Without a Rosetta Stone, a side-by-side translation in a known language, the process becomes a monumental task of inference and pattern recognition. Imagine trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle without the picture on the box and with half the pieces missing. That is the reality for scripts like Linear A. With only around 1,400 known inscriptions, most of them just brief fragments on broken clay, the dataset is simply too small for conclusive analysis. You cannot reliably determine the rules of a language if you have only ever seen a few hundred short phrases. Compounding this is the sheer mystery of the underlying tongue. When a script represents a language that has left no descendants, a language isolate, there is no familiar grammar or vocabulary to use as a starting point. Every assumption is a shot in the dark, Perhaps the greatest trap, however, lies not in the stones themselves but within our own minds. It is the danger of confirmation bias, the very human tendency to see what we want or expect to see. A modern researcher steeped in the history of Greece might look at a Minoan symbol and interpret it through a later Greek lens, assigning meanings based on myths that developed centuries after Linear fell silent. They might try to force the strange syllables to sound like Greek words, a process that inevitably leads to dead ends and flawed theories. This cultural gap is a chasm we must carefully bridge. Why do some scripts resist decoding for decades, even with our most advanced tools? The answer is that we are not just cracking a code, we are attempting a profound act of cultural translation. We must set aside our own worldview and learn to think with a completely different set of symbols, values, and priorities. It requires a rare humility, an admission that the message might not be about kings and conquests, but about the flow of water, the names of local plants, or the precise ritual for honoring an ancestor. This intricate dance between symbol and meaning, between the carved mark and the idea it was meant to evoke, leads us directly to the powerful role of art in these ancient communications. A glyph can be both a beautiful image and a functional word, a duality that complicates every attempt at translation. The most profound ancient scripts often refuse to be categorized neatly as either art or writing. They exist in a liminal space where aesthetic beauty and linguistic meaning are fused into a single, inseparable act of creation. Look at the bizarre pages of the Voynich Manuscript. The strange text does not simply describe the otherworldly plants. It weaves around them, flows into the pools where the nude figures bathe, and integrates with the astronomical charts. The writing and the art are two parts of a single, incomprehensible whole, suggesting that to understand one, you must first understand the other. This is not an isolated case. On the Cascajal Block, the Olmec glyphs possess a sculptural quality. The symbols for throne or maze are not merely functional signs, they are miniature artworks, carved with a care that implies their visual impact was as important as their literal meaning. This was not a simple act of record-keeping. The carving of these symbols was itself a ritual, a performance where the act of making the mark permanent was a sacred duty. We see this principle clearly in the Egyptian system we can now read. A hieroglyph of a bird was not just the letter for the sound A, it was also an image of an actual bird. The form was intrinsically linked to the content, and the beauty of the carving was a tribute to the concept it represented. So how do we begin to separate the purely decorative curl from the sign that carries sound or meaning? It is one of the most delicate tasks in decipherment. An ornate border on a Maya stela might be just that, a border, but a similar-looking swirl within the text block could be a vital syllable. Scholars must become art historians as much as linguists, learning the visual vocabulary and artistic conventions of a culture to recognize when a line is meant to be read and when it is meant to be admired. This fusion challenges our modern, utilitarian view of writing. For these ancient scribes, the medium was deeply entwined with the message. The visual power of the glyph was part of its function, designed to evoke emotion, command respect, or connect with the divine. To crack these codes, we must learn to see them not as broken sentences, but as complete works of art where every curve and figure plays a role. This nuanced approach has brought us tantalizingly close to understanding a few of these ancient puzzles, where a single, brilliant insight finally began to turn silence into sound. The intricate carvings of the Maya stand as a powerful testament to the idea that no ancient code is truly unbreakable. For generations, their magnificent stone stelae and painted codices were considered impenetrable, beautiful but silent monuments to a lost world. The glyphs were often dismissed as mere priestly picture writing, incapable of conveying the complex histories we now know they hold. The turning point came from a Russian scholar, Yuri Norizov, working in the 1950s. While studying reproductions of the few surviving Maya books, he made a crucial conceptual leap. He argued that the script was not purely pictorial, but a logosyllabic system, a sophisticated blend where some symbols represented entire words while others represented distinct syllables. His key insight was that a glyph showing a dog, for example, could be used not just for the word dog, but for the syllable tzul, if the Maya word for dog sounded similar. This principle, known as phonetic complementation, was the master key. He proved his theory by deciphering a small group of glyphs, unlocking the sounds for words like water and earth. But a single key does not open every door. The full decipherment was a relay race across generations. It required the fieldwork of archaeologists who linked specific glyphs on monuments to the tombs of specific kings. It demanded the linguistic knowledge of modern Maya speakers who provided the living sounds for the ancient syllables. A pivotal moment came when a young scholar, David Stewart, still a teenager, realized that certain glyphs were royal titles, phrases like Holy Lord of a specific city-state. This was not just about sounding out words, it was about reconstructing a worldview. The stones began to speak, and they told stories of war, of royal births, of intricate astronomical calculations, and of a profound connection to the calendar and the cosmos. We learned the names of powerful rulers like Pakal the Great of Palinc, and we could finally read about his life and deeds in his own voice. The Maya success story is a blueprint for hope. It teaches us that decipherment is rarely a single moment of genius, but a collaborative, painstaking process of matching symbols to sounds, contextualizing inscriptions with archaeology, and persisting through decades of skepticism. This hard-won victory stands in stark contrast to the next great enigma, a script whose symbols have offered no such foothold for over a century, but the Maya breakthrough stands as a rare victory. For every script that falls, another seems to retreat further into the shadows. In the dusty plains of ancient Iran, a collection of small clay tablets holds the title of one of the world's oldest undeciphered puzzles. This is the Proto-Elamite Script, a system of writing that emerged around 3100 BCE, making it nearly as ancient as the very first writing from Mesopotamia. These tablets are not grand proclamations. They are humble administrative records covered in rows of finely incised, abstract symbols alongside clear numerical notations. You are looking at the raw paperwork of one of humanity's earliest bureaucracies, a system designed to track commodities like grain, livestock, and labor. The script itself is a fascinating hybrid. It borrowed a handful of visual ideas from its neighbor, Proto-Cuneiform, but then it sprinted off on its own evolutionary path, developing a unique set of signs that are more linear and geometric. This independence is the core of the problem. We know the language behind Proto-Cuneiform, but the language behind Proto-Elamite is a complete mystery, a tongue that vanished without any clear descendants. This means we have no linguistic family tree to guide us, no relative to compare it to. The tablets themselves are frustratingly brief. There are no long narrative texts, no royal inscriptions that might offer context. Each one is a short, seemingly repetitive record, likely a list of goods received or distributed. Imagine trying to learn English by only reading thousands of nearly identical grocery receipts. You would see the numbers clearly. You might guess that certain symbols stand for sheep or barrels of oil, but you would have no idea about the people involved, the reasons for the transaction, or the specific words being used. This is the monumental wall scholars have faced. Recent technology has offered a fragile key. researchers at the University of Oxford have used sophisticated reflectance transformation imaging to study these tablets. This technique creates a detailed digital model of the surface, allowing experts to manipulate light and see the precise, shallow cuts made by a scribe's stylus 5,000 years ago. These scans have revealed something remarkable: the personal handwriting of the ancient accountants. You can see where a scribe corrected a mistake or the subtle variations in how they held their tool. This intimate connection feels like a breakthrough, a window into the moment of creation, yet the meaning of the marks themselves remains locked away. So what economic world is documented in these tiny lines? Were they tracking the wealth of a powerful temple or the taxes owed to an early king? The Proto-Elamite Script represents the birth of a fundamental human need to record numbers and obligations, to make an economy visible and permanent. Its resistance to decipherment means we are missing a foundational chapter in the story of civilization itself. This pushes us to consider a more provocative idea. Perhaps some of these ancient scripts were never meant to be read by just anyone. What if their obscurity was the entire point? A deliberate cipher can be far more difficult to break than a forgotten language. The possibility exists that some of these ancient texts were never meant for public eyes, designed from the outset to conceal their meaning from the uninitiated. This is the realm of ancient cryptography, where a script is not just a vehicle for language but a locked box requiring a specific key. The Voynich Manuscript is the prime suspect here. Its unique alphabet and bafflingly consistent structure have led many codebreakers to propose it is not a language at all, but a complex cipher of a known language, perhaps Latin or Hebrew, scrambled through a method lost to time. The same principle could apply to far older inscriptions. Imagine a priesthood guarding the secrets of a powerful ritual, or a guild of traders protecting their lucrative routes. For these elite groups, a secret script was a tool of power, a way to control knowledge and maintain their status. The methods for cracking such codes are different from linguistic decipherment. Codebreakers rely heavily on frequency analysis, counting how often each symbol appears to identify the most common letters, just as E and T are the most frequent in English. They search for repeating patterns that might mark the beginnings and endings of words, or for telltale signs of a substitution cipher where one symbol consistently stands in for another letter. Yet the line between a natural, unknown language and a cleverly constructed code is notoriously blurry. A script like Linear displays the statistical patterns of a real language, which argues against it being a simple cipher. But what if the cipher was so sophisticated that it perfectly mimicked those patterns? The central, haunting question remains. Were these scripts created to communicate or to conceal? Were they meant to shout a message across the centuries, or to whisper a secret only to a chosen few? This cryptographic layer transforms the puzzle from a simple translation to an intellectual duel with the long-vanished minds who designed it. Our own myths and stories often color how we approach these ancient silences. Mythology offers a powerful lens for seeing past the silent surface of these symbols. When direct translation fails, scholars turn to the rich tapestry of human stories, searching for echoes of gods, heroes, and creation in the carved lines. The birdmen and fish on the Rongorongo tablets, for example, might not be random animals. They could be key figures from Polynesian creation myths, perhaps depicting the legendary struggle between the Sky Father and the Earth Mother, or the heroic sea voyager who discovered the island itself. Similarly, the recurring unicorn-like creature on the Indus Valley seals could be a profound archetype. It might represent a powerful Vedic concept like the cosmic horse, a symbol of the sun's journey across the sky or of untamed royal power. This is not about finding a literal one-to-one translation, but about immersing the symbols in the cultural ocean from which they emerged. These interpretations are, by their nature, speculative. A single glyph could be interpreted in a dozen different ways depending on which myth you use as your guide. Scholars rightly warn against the trap of seeing connections everywhere, of forcing a favorite story onto an unwilling script. Yet without this approach, the symbols risk becoming sterile, divorced from the very beliefs that gave them life and power. Why does the same archetype of a world tree or a great flood appear in myths from Mesopotamia to the Americas? This search for universal patterns reveals a profound truth. These undeciphered scripts are not just records of isolated cultures. They are fragments of a shared human conversation about our place in the universe. We see the same awe of the stars, the same fear of chaos, and the same hope for order reflected in stones carved continents apart. This symbolic analysis builds a bridge of understanding, reminding us that the people who carved these marks grappled with the same fundamental mysteries we do today. And behind every attempt to build that bridge, there is a person, a decipherer whose life becomes intertwined with the mystery they are trying to solve. The life of a decipherer is a solitary vigil against the silence of millennia. Michael Ventris, the architect who unlocked the secrets of Linear B, became a legend not through sudden genius, but through an obsession that consumed his every waking hour. He transformed his home into a war room, covering walls with charts and index cards, each one a potential piece of the puzzle. His architectural training was crucial, giving him a mind for structural patterns, for seeing how symbols could fit together in a logical system. He worked for years, testing and discarding theories, facing a wall of academic skepticism that insisted the Minoan language was forever lost. His ultimate success in proving Linear B was an early form of Greek was a triumph of relentless, systematic deduction, a testament to the power of a single, focused mind. Today, that same obsessive dedication lives on in scholars like Dr. Jane Smith, a modern researcher who might spend a decade analyzing the statistical patterns of a single undeciphered script. Her work is a slow, painstaking process of building digital models and running countless algorithms, only to find herself at yet another dead end. These individuals are driven by something deeper than academic curiosity. It is a profound desire to restore a voice to the voiceless, to pull a single name, a single story, back from the abyss of forgotten time. They are driven by the haunting question of what is lost when an entire culture is silenced. What motivates a person to dedicate their life to such a daunting and often thankless task? It is the same force that compels an explorer to map an unknown land, the conviction that a great truth is waiting to be found and that they might be the one to find it. Their work is a powerful reminder that decipherment is not just a cold, technical science. It is a deeply human endeavor fueled by perseverance, intuition, and an unwavering belief that no message is meant to be lost forever. This profound connection to the past, this act of giving voice to the silent, inevitably leads us to a crucial and complex question: who does that recovered voice truly belong to? The act of decipherment carries a profound ethical weight that extends far beyond the academic puzzle. When a scholar decodes a script like Rongorongo, they are not just unlocking symbols, they are touching the very identity of the Rapa Nui people of Easter Island. For them, these wooden tablets are not merely artifacts, they are sacred heirlooms, a direct link to ancestors whose voices were violently silenced. Who holds the right to interpret that recovered voice? This question lies at the heart of modern ethical practice. The old model of archaeology, where outsiders would extract objects and pronounce their meanings from a distant university, is increasingly seen as a form of intellectual colonialism. It risks imposing an external, Western framework onto a culture's most intimate expressions. Imagine a foreign scholar deciphering your family's oldest diary and then publishing a definitive interpretation of your heritage without your consultation, potentially getting it wrong. The potential for distortion is immense. A glyph that an outside researcher might label as a simple tally of fish could, within the living tradition of the community, represent a prayer for a bountiful ocean or the name of a revered spirit. Ethical decipherment now demands collaboration. This means linguists and archaeologists working alongside community elders and cultural practitioners from the very beginning. It involves sharing authority, listening to oral histories, and respecting that the descendant community may have their own non-Western understanding of what the script means, even without a full literal translation. This collaborative process is slower and more complex, but it ensures that the knowledge recovered serves to empower and enrich the culture it came from, rather than being stripped away as just another data point for a foreign archive. The ultimate goal shifts. It is no longer just about what the script says, but about who it belongs to and how its return to understanding can help heal the wounds of history. This careful, respectful approach prepares us for a future where the next great decipherment could change everything. A single, successful decipherment can shatter the world we think we know. Imagine finally reading the linear tablets and discovering that the Minoans were not a single, peaceful kingdom ruled by a priest-king, but a confederation of rival city-states locked in a complex, centuries-long dance of trade and warfare. Their true political structure, their forgotten gods, and the extent of their maritime empire could spring from the silent clay, forcing us to rewrite every textbook chapter on ancient Europe. The impact would be seismic, a historical tremor felt across disciplines. This potential for a paradigm shift is the very lifeblood of decipherment. A breakthrough with the Indus Valley script could be even more profound. It might finally answer the question that has haunted archaeologists for a century: who were these people? Were they the ancestors of today's Dravidian populations in South India, or did they represent a completely different, now vanished ethnic and linguistic group? The symbols on those tiny seals could clarify the origins of South Asian civilization itself, tracing a clear cultural and genetic lineage that stretches back over 4 millennia. The implications for modern national identities and our understanding of human migration would be immense, but the true power of a deciphered script extends far beyond the academic conference. For descendant communities, it is an act of cultural restoration. The Rapa Nui people recovering the full meaning of Rongorongo would not be gaining a historical document. They would be reclaiming a part of their soul, hearing the voices of their direct ancestors for the first time in generations. This is not merely about filling in blanks on a timeline. It is about healing the wounds of cultural erasure and rebuilding a living bridge to a past that was almost lost forever. What unexpected truths might emerge from these stones? Perhaps the Minoans recorded a first-hand account of the volcanic eruption that shattered their world. Maybe the Indus merchants kept logs of voyages to Mesopotamia we never knew were possible. Every undeciphered script holds the potential to append a settled narrative and open up entirely new fields of inquiry, proving that the most exciting chapters of our history may still be waiting to be read. These modern collaborations are dismantling the old image of the lone scholar toiling in isolation. Across the globe, international teams are pooling their collective intellect in a unified assault on these ancient puzzles. One such effort, a major European Research Council-funded project, is taking on the formidable Proto-Elamite Script. This initiative unites archaeologists, linguists, and computer scientists, creating a digital ecosystem where every known tablet is scanned with high-resolution reflectance transformation imaging. These detailed models are then shared on open access platforms, allowing any researcher in the world to study the scribe's most delicate strokes from their own desk. This open data philosophy is a game changer, transforming a scarce resource into a shared global commons. The same collaborative spirit fuels the ongoing analysis of the Voynich Manuscript. Online forums and dedicated wikis have become virtual laboratories where professional cryptographers debate theories with talented amateur codebreakers. On crowdsourcing platforms, thousands of volunteers can help transcribe faint symbols or flag recurring visual patterns that a single researcher might miss over years of work. This is the new landscape of decipherment, a paradigm built on transparency and shared curiosity. How exactly does this collective approach crack a code that has stumped experts for centuries? It introduces a powerful cross-pollination of ideas. A computer scientist might see a statistical anomaly in the glyph distribution that a linguist would overlook, while an art historian could identify a plant illustration that narrows down the manuscript's possible cultural origins. These projects are proving that the final, crucial insight is less likely to come from a single genius and more likely to emerge from the friction between different ways of thinking. This global, interdisciplinary network represents our best hope for hearing these ancient voices again. And it is this very hope, this shared human desire to solve a grand mystery, that ensures these silent stones and cryptic manuscripts continue to captivate us all. A blockbuster film can transform an obscure academic puzzle into a global obsession overnight. When a story like the Da Vinci Code captivates millions, it doesn't just entertain, it directs a powerful spotlight onto the very real history of secret codes and ancient symbols. Suddenly, museum exhibits on forgotten scripts see record attendance, and university departments receive a surge of public inquiries. This wave of popular interest can be a powerful force for good, translating into crucial funding for digitization projects and attracting a new generation of talented decipherers. Yet that same spotlight can also cast long, distorting shadows. Television shows that promote speculative narratives, suggesting these scripts are evidence of lost advanced civilizations or extraterrestrial contact, tap into a deep human desire for sensational answers. While these theories are compelling stories, they often sidestep the meticulous, less glamorous work of actual scholarship. The result is a dangerous split in public understanding, where an entertaining fiction can become mistaken for historical fact in the popular imagination. So how do we navigate this delicate balance? Responsible media strives to capture the wonder of the mystery without sacrificing intellectual integrity, framing the unknown as an exciting frontier for science rather than a void to be filled with fantasy. This dual role of media, as both a powerful educator and a potential source of misinformation, forces us to ask a deeper question. Why does the public remain so endlessly captivated by these silent stones? Their enduring appeal lies in the perfect story they represent. They are fragments of a narrative with a missing climax, an invitation for every one of us to become the detective, to ponder the solution from our own living rooms. This collective engagement, for all its complexities, ensures that these ancient puzzles are never truly forgotten, their silent call echoing from the academic journal to the silver screen and into our shared curiosity. The truth is, some of these ancient codes may never be broken. The sheer passage of time can erase the very context needed for understanding. If the language a script represents is an isolate, a tongue with no known relatives that has vanished completely from the earth, the task shifts from decryption to pure invention. There is no linguistic family tree to climb, no familiar grammar or sound to use as an anchor. You are trying to reconstruct a ghost. The challenge is magnified when the surviving examples are tragically few. For a script like Linear A, with only around 1,400 short inscriptions, the data set is simply too small. Statistical analysis, the very tool that helps crack modern codes, begins to fail. The patterns are too faint, the repetitions too scarce to reliably identify rules for grammar or a core vocabulary. It is like trying to discern the plot of an epic novel from a handful of random sentences torn from its pages. You might grasp a few individual words, but the grand narrative, the characters, and the deeper themes remain utterly lost. This inherent limitation forces a profound humility. It asks us to accept that not every door from the past can be unlocked. Some voices may be silenced forever, their stories dissolved by the relentless erosion of time. What does this acceptance tell us about the human project of knowledge? It reminds us that our understanding of history is, and may always be, a mosaic filled with gaps. We piece together the fragments we have, illuminating vast areas while acknowledging the permanent shadows that lie between them. This is not an admission of defeat, but a recognition of reality. It makes the scripts we have deciphered, like Maya glyphs, all the more precious, and it fuels a respectful curiosity for those that continue to guard their secrets. These silent stones force a profound philosophical question about the very nature of knowledge itself. We often assume history is a book we can simply open and read, but these undeciphered scripts reveal it to be a volume filled with torn pages and passages written in ink that has faded to invisibility. They challenge our deep-seated belief that all important truths are ultimately recoverable, that with enough effort we can solve any puzzle. The reality is far more humbling. Some voices from the past are silenced forever, and their stories are lost to the relentless erosion of time. This is not a failure of our technology or our intellect, but a fundamental condition of existence. These enduring mysteries compel us to consider the fragile relationship between a symbol and the reality it attempts to capture. A single Rongorongo glyph of a birdman is not the birdman itself. It is a representation, a concept filtered through a cultural lens that we no longer possess. The mark is permanent, but the shared understanding that gave it meaning has evaporated. This gap between the permanent mark and the lost meaning speaks to a core human dilemma. We are driven by an innate need to shout into the future, to leave proof that we were here, that we thought and felt and built. We carve our names into trees and our stories into stone, desperate to assert our existence against the vast silence of time. But what is the value of a message if no one can understand it? These ancient symbols become metaphors for all the ways we fail to truly connect, for the thoughts we can never fully express and the experiences that remain locked within us. They remind us that understanding is always partial, always filtered, and that some mysteries are meant to endure. Our journey through these unreadable texts ultimately brings us face to face with the limits of our own perception, and the quiet acknowledgement that not everything is meant to be known. Our journey across continents and millennia ends here, but the silence of these stones continues to resonate. From the wooden tablets of Easter Island to the tiny seals of the Indus Valley, each undeciphered script is a testament to the brilliant diversity of the human mind. They are fragments of lost conversations, reminding us that entire worldviews can be erased by time, conquest, or simple misfortune, while the cold truth remains that some of these ancient codes may never be broken. Their value is not solely in their solution. The relentless quest to understand them, to hear that faint whisper from the past, fundamentally enriches our present. It pushes the boundaries of technology and demands a humble collaboration between science and tradition. These symbols urge us to listen more carefully to the echoes of history, to appreciate the sheer ingenuity of our ancestors, and to acknowledge the fragile thread upon which all knowledge is suspended. Which of these great puzzles will be the next to fall? Will it be the bureaucratic records of the Proto-Elamites or the sacred chants of the Rapa Nui? The next chapter in this story is waiting to be written, perhaps by a researcher using a tool not yet invented or by a community reclaiming its own heritage. If you have been captivated by these enduring mysteries, consider subscribing for more journeys into the forgotten corners of our world. Let us know in the comments which script you believe holds the most tantalizing secret. Thank you for exploring the unknown.